My name is Andy Amor, and I'm the president of the Rwanda Community Association in Calgary. It's my pleasure to welcome each and every one of you every year at this point in April. April is a month that is so tough for every Rwandan. Being a Tutsi, being a Hutu, being a Mutwa, every Rwandan in Rwanda is a survivor of the genocide against the Tutsis. For us here, for you to come and support us every year, it means a lot. We find we have support, we have people who understand who we are, and we have people who really care about the humanity. The story of Rwanda is not isolated. It's not isolated. It used to be isolated. It is not anymore. It's out there. Because what happened to Rwanda in '94, people thought that it is just happening somewhere in a small country of Africa with no resources, with no minerals. Well, something happened before, and it doesn't matter, it can happen again, let them kill each other. And then we just found that slowly, it is coming to our doorsteps. It's the seeds of hate. It's the seeds of discrimination, the seeds of intolerance. We didn't have to continue this movie here, because part 2, it is so graphic, and I just want to spare some of you who probably never been able to witness something like that, so it would be kind of unfair to try to, to scare some people, but we have someone here in front of us exactly the second day when the genocide started on April 7th. Him and sisters were able to find cover in exactly not far from where you found the first body of the massacre. We've got in front of us here Clement today. He's a brother to a sister. Her sister is Mimi. She's in the audience here. You're going to find that some of the people of Rwanda who, there's some of them, a lot of them who can't open themselves and talk about their story. Clement is going to be the mouthpiece of the family, of the Ndegeya's family. He was 9 years old when all of this happened. A short biography of Clement. Clement Ndegeya is a leader. Ndegeya is a leader in the community, working to increase youth participation in important and relevant programs in the community through the Canadian Association of Rwanda Youth. Clement is also an active member of the Omega Sci-Fi Fraternity, Inc., where, as a leader in the local Toronto chapter, he is working to mentor young black men to become leaders in their own rights. Having survived genocide against the Tutsis in Rwanda, Clement is passionate about raising awareness about genocide and how to prevent it, and preserving the memory of those who were brutally murdered. Clement has a degree in anthropology and works as a correctional officer with the province of Alberta. Please welcome. Thank you.
Good afternoon. Mwiriwe. My name is Clement Ndegeya, like Andy just mentioned, and I'm a survivor. I'm not standing here because I have any special genocide survival skills. I stand before you to share my story only by the grace of God. However, I personally believe that as a survivor, I have a responsibility to keep the memory of those who died during the 1994 genocide against the Tutsi alive. My conviction rests in the simple fact that as long as I live, it must never happen again. On April 7th, 1994, I was awakened by my older siblings in the early hours of the morning, and I was told we were leaving our house to hide. As it turns out, my parents had received a phone call advising us that we should leave our house immediately or risk being killed. As units of the Presidential Guard and the Interahamwe militia were going around eliminating families and individuals on their list. One such family was our family. On that fateful morning, we hid in the bushes behind our house for a few days until our parents made the decision that our chances of survival would be significantly increased and they would be higher if we were split up. A few days into hiding on April 11th, 1994, exactly 20 years ago today, my dad, who was employed at the Kigali International Airport, noticed a French soldier inside the airport grounds, since our property was only separated from the airport by a fence. My dad managed to get this French soldier's attention and wrote him a note explaining that he and his wife worked at the airport, but their passes to the airport to enter the airport had been revoked. He further explained that his family was at risk of being exterminated by the genocidal Rwandan military and that he needed help evacuating the family as soon as possible. My dad passed this note to the soldier through the airport fence, and the French soldier took it and looked at it briefly. He turned the piece of paper around and raised his knee on the fence as a support to write, and quickly passed it back to my dad. The note read, "Pas question." For the English speakers, loosely translated, the note said, "No way." My dad neatly folded the piece of paper and later told my mom that when this was all over, he would show it to the international community and expose the French soldiers' contempt and the contempt they had for those in danger. 2 days later, my father was murdered by a man who was our neighbor, a man who gave the weather reports on Radio Rwanda. By this point, I had taken refuge with 4 of my siblings in the St. Paul compound. St. Paul was a large compound run by the Catholic Church in what is considered the downtown area of Kigali. I'm lucky to have one of my brothers and sister here today who were there with thousands of others in hiding. We had arrived at St. Paul with the help of 2 Rwandan military soldiers whose friendship and loyalty to my parents transcended the so-called ethnic hatred they were expected to fall in line with. One of these soldiers, named Alexander, was a guard at an airport gate near my house in Kigali. He had helped conceal our whereabouts during the first days of the genocide and worked hand in hand with another soldier, Captain Munyurangabo, an Air Force helicopter pilot. Captain Munyurangabo had continued to work with Private Alexander to transport my family to safety. First, he had moved my brothers and I to St. Paul in his military vehicle, Then he had snuck my mother, cousins, and sisters into the airport onto a Canadian Hercules supply plane that flew into Kigali from Nairobi and then back, under the UN banner. Private Alexander was eventually killed by other Rwandan soldiers when it was discovered that he had helped her family to escape. Captain Munyirangabo, sensing his life was also in danger, took a military helicopter and flew it to Tanzania. Captain Munyirangabo would eventually join the Rwandese Patriotic Front from Tanzania and help with the taking of Kigali. It was eventually the same RPF rebel army that stopped the genocide when the entire international community had turned their backs on the Rwandans, who were being systematically eliminated because they were Tutsi or sympathizers of Tutsi. In the past, whenever there were politically motivated massacres against the Tutsi population, such as those that happened in 1959, 1963, 1973, 1990, it was common practice to hide on the sacred grounds of churches. However, in 1994, all of this changed as churches were no longer sacred. Interahamwe militia colluded with the clergy, and thousands of people were massacred. Thousands of people were massacred in the very sanctuaries where they had been baptized, married, or attended Sunday service. On June 14th, 1994, the Interahamwe militia, armed with AK-47s, machetes, nail-studded clubs, and knives, stormed St. Paul and ordered all young men to get up and leave with them. Among them was my elder brother, Clement Ndegeya. He was 18, 9 days short of his 19th birthday. Three days later, in the middle of the night, we were awakened first by word that the RPF soldiers had come to rescue us. The siege to take Kigali and the entire country by the RPF was well underway. With an RPF escort, we spent the night walking single file and at times running, dodging gunfire, and eventually crawling to safe territory to another hill called Gisozi, where the RPF had established a safe zone. Again, by the grace of God, along with my siblings, we had made this journey unhurt, but unfortunately, many lost life and limb during this high-risk operation. By July 4th, 1994, the RPF had control of the country and effectively ended a genocide that lasted around 100 days and will claim over 1 million lives. The efficiency in killing, this efficiency in killing is often described by many experts as one that would make Hitler blush and envy us all at the same time. Although I do not have the time to go through all of the details of my personal story in this time that's been graciously given to me, I've highlighted a few things that I felt ought to be shared with you. First, the exchange my dad had with the French soldier typified Western attitudes toward intervening in Rwanda and stopping the genocide for whatever reason. It was simply out of the question. It is well known that even the United Nations Assistance Mission for Rwanda, led by General Romeo Dallaire, was cut and reduced at the height of the genocide. It was eventually the RPF, Rwandans, who came to put the killings to an end and thereby begin the process for healing and reconciliation of a nation brought to its knees. Excuse me. I share this story with you today as my contribution to the memory of the genocide against the Tutsi, which must be long and clear. The danger is always that long after the guns go silent, revision and denial of the genocide starts, and it has, even after 21 years. Much like the years after the Holocaust, the genocide against the Tutsi is experiencing an aggression by those responsible and their ill-advised supporters to diminish, deny, and revise the facts of what actually happened. This denial and revisionism is not only tarnishing the memory of those we lost, but it is the very personification of the re-victimization of survivors and a nation still healing from the deep wounds of a genocide. I ask all of you here today to support your fellow Rwandan Canadians and fight the scourge of denial and revisionism and to fight genocide in all corners of the world. And to the political leaders that we have here with us today and those who have influence, I ask you to do your best to support those who have difficulty in dealing with this and provide the resources that you have at your disposal and help these people heal so that we may have a healed nation that will help other nations heal. Thank you.